Class 504, are you ready? I want to review, just for a second, paragraph 42 from the 198 paragraphs. Most of us had never been there before and weren't used to such cold weather either. Most of us had never been there before. Most of us, maste vale, maste, mosta, mostaza, Mostar, una ciudad de Bosnia y Herzegovina. Mostar, most of us, of us. Yeah, ¿a dónde vas? ¿Ande vas? Most of us. Es la mayoría de nosotros. Most of you, most of them, most of us. Most of us had never been there before. Solemos añadir el antes. In Spanish you say la mayoría nunca habíamos estado allí. Antes, o sea, se añade muchas veces antes. Most of us had never been there before and weren't used to, and weren't, británicos. Most of us had never been there before and weren't used to, and weren't, británico, weren't, americano, weren't. Most of us had never been there before. Most of us had never been there before and weren't used to. Estar acostumbrado es to be used to. I wasn't used to. You weren't used to. We weren't used to. Most of us had never been there before and weren't used to such cold weather. Tiempo tan frío. Tampoco estamos either. We weren't such cold weather either. In fact, it was so cold that the inside of your nose froze, to freeze, frozen, in a question of minutes. This is better than that. Yeah, if you have a runny nose, no problem, it freezes. All right. El mojo caído, but it's frozen, all right? In a question of minutes, all right. My first impression was that of a cold, gray, impersonal city. This is true. That was my first impression of Moscow. Of course, it was in the middle of the winter, and it was Soviet Moscow, not Moscow today. The Soviet Union disintegrated in 1991. The Berlin Wall fell in 1989, and 2 years later was the final disintegration of the Soviet Union. But I was there 20 years before, during the Brezhnev period, Leonid Brezhnev and Alexei Kosygin. And so in the middle of the Cold War, I was in cold Russia, Mother Russia, the Soviet Union. And it was very gray. It was not a very good, I didn't get a good impression. Leningrad, yes. St. Petersburg, but it's very cold, but very beautiful. St. Petersburg is very princely, very stately. And I was in Kiev as well, because at that time, Ukraine was the Soviet Socialist Republic of the Ukraine. All right. And so I was in those three cities. Okay. Learn to speak up. Learn to speak up. Page 54, list number 23. Are you ready? It's just super fácil. This is really easy, but the important thing is the intonation and the pronunciation. Esos con modals, o modales, modals. ¿Qué son modals? Can, could, should, deberías, puedes, podías, etc. Puedo hacerlo. I can do it. Excuse me. ¿Qué es? I can do it. A native person says, I can do it. No problem. I can. Toma. I can do it. No problem. Claro. Dicen, I can't do it. Claro. No lo puedo hacer. Sorry, I can't do it. I can't do it. Boom, boom. I can't. I and do. In the middle is can or can't. I and do. And so then, afirmativo. Aquí es I, aquí es do, y can es aquí. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. You understand? I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. No problem. I can do it. Lo contrario, que no puedo hacerlo. I can't do it. Sorry. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Realmente no decimos la T, can't. But the intonation or pronunciation is so different that it's instantly understandable. Yeah, I can do it. No problem. Yeah, I can do it. Sure. No problem. I can do it. I can do it. Yeah. I can do it. Sorry, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. All right. Le dije a él, le dije que podía hacerlo. I told him I could do it. I told him I could. Dije, entre comillas, I can do it. Well, what did you tell him? I told him I could do it. I told him I could do it. I told him I could do it. Puede que él lo haga. Puede que lo haga. No estoy seguro. He may do it. He may do it. Or he might do it. Te dije que él posiblemente lo haría. I told him that he might do it. Aquí quiero might, no may. See, it's reported speech. I told him, it's in the past tense. Might. I told him, or I told you, no? ¿A quién dije que? Yeah, te dije, yeah. I told you that he might. I said, entre comillas, quote, unquote. Quote, he may do it, unquote. He may do it. Excuse me, what did you tell me? I told you he might do it. Pero si dices, I told you he may do it, perfect, no problem. Don't worry. Don't worry. Deberías hacerlo, eh? You should do it. Eh? You ought to do it. You should do it. You should do it. In my opinion, you should do it. Really, come on. Yeah, you should do it. Eh? You should apologize to your wife. You should do it. You hurt her feelings. You should do it. Debes hacerlo. Moralmente obligado. You must do it. You must do it. You should apologize to your wife. Has herido los sentimientos. You hurt her feelings. You should, in my opinion, you should apologize. What do you mean, Richard? You must apologize. Eso es un imperativo moral. You must. No es imperativo. You have to. You have to if I point a gun. Apologize. Said, darling, I'm sorry. Said, oh, you apologize. Well, because I have to. They're pointing a gun at me. Have to is externally imposed obligation. Must is internally, morally imposed obligation. You must apologize to her. All right. Debes hacerlo. Te insisto, te insto. You must, do it. Tienes que hacerlo. No hay más remedio. You have to do it. I have to do it. You have to do it. What? You have to. Do what? Have a vaccination. It's mandatory. Oh, I have to. All right, you have to do it. Más vale que lo hagas, porque si no, you'd better do it. Because if not, dos formas de decir que sí, no. Pero lo importante, but you had better. Curiosa expresión, had better. No tenéis lógica gramatical, pero you had better. Contracción you'd. You'd better do it, eh? Eso siempre es amenaza. Siempre hay consecuencias malas si no. Amenaza directa por persona o amenaza por las circunstancias. Más vale que lleve el paraguas porque amenaza lluvia. I'd better. You'd better. Más vale que lo hagas porque si no, you'd better do it. You had better. You'd better. ¿Recuerdas lo de Santa Claus siempre? Remember? You'd better watch out. You better not cry. You'd better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Más vale que seas buen niño porque Santa Claus trae regalos. Y si no, no te tocan. All right. You'd better do it because otherwise, you'd better do it because if not, consecuencias. Más te vale, eh? Más te vale. You'd better. You had better. You'd better. Deberías llamarla más a menudo. You should call her more often. You ought to call her more often. You ought to call her. You ought to call her. Yada. ¿Qué es yada? Yada? Un yate? No. Yada is you ought to. Como el pasado de pensar, thought, quitas la T primera, ought. You ought to is tú deberías. Es igual que you should. No lo suelo enseñar. I don't teach it. However, I should teach it because people use it. However, the contraction or the phonetics are so, we don't say you ought to. Este dice, deberías llamarla más a menudo, ¿no? You ought to call her more often. No. A native person says, you ought to call her. Yada, yada, yada. I think you ought to call her more often. Muchas veces cuando I think delante. I think you ought to call her more often. In my opinion, you ought to call, I think you oughta, I think you oughta, I think you oughta. Que parece un coche Kiara. I think you oughta. I think you ought to call her more often. I don't teach it because I recommend should. However, you need to understand, you ought to call her more often, in my opinion. You should call her more often. No deben estar en casa. They must not be at home. That's my only conclusion. They're not at home. Nothing. No deben estar en casa. They must not be at home. Yeah, that's my only conclusion. They must not be at home. Ese señor, mira, Marta, ese señor debe de estar rico. Debe de ser rico. Debe de ser rico. That man must be rich. Yeah, he must be rich. Oh, yeah. He's driving a Rolls Royce. Rolls. He's driving. Hey, excuse me, sir. Yes? Are you rich? No. But you have a Rolls Royce. Yeah, I'm the chauffeur. The chauffeur. So he's not rich. He's the chauffeur. But in any case, it's interesting that the chauffeur, this is a true story, the chauffeur of a Rolls Royce was driving and the man was in the back. The owner of the Rolls Royce was sitting in the back. And the car broke down. The car broke down. The chauffeur got out, but he didn't open the hood or the bonnet, as the British say, the couple. And the owner says, oh, why don't you open it? And the chauffeur said, this is a Rolls Royce. You never open the hood in public. People will think that it's not a perfect car. All right. We will find a way to solve it tonight when nobody's looking. We'll take the car to the garage, to the workshop in a very discreet way, okay? So it's true. Sometimes they don't open, and they say, if you're going to buy a Rolls Royce, don't open the hood because it's supposed to be perfect, okay? All right. So, ese señor debe de ser rico. Si no, no tiene sentido. That man must be rich. All right. Preferiría estar contigo que con ella. I'd rather be with you than with her. I'd rather be with you than with her. I'd rather play tennis than go to the dentist. I'd rather play herc than go to work. Herc? What's herc? I don't know. But it must be better than work. Tiene que ser mejor que el trabajo. No sé lo que es, pero yeah. I'd rather play tennis than go to the dentist. I'd rather play herc than go to work. Herc? What's herc? I don't know, but it must be better than work. It must be better than work. I'd rather, preferiría estar contigo que con ella, Marta, que con ella. Yeah. Yes. I'd rather be with you than with her. Yeah. But who is she? That's Marilyn Monroe. But I'd rather be with Marta. All right, than with her. ¿Nos vamos? Shall we go? Shall we go? Busco consenso, acuerdo. Shall we go? En español se usa el presente. ¿Nos vamos? En inglés no. Do we go? Imposible. Shall we go? Yeah, let's go. ¿Qué hacemos? What shall we do? What shall we do? What shall we do? Abro la ventana. Shall I open the window? Shall I open the window? No tienes que convencerme, ¿eh? You don't have to convince me. It's not necessary. You don't have to convince me. I'm convinced. I'm convinced. The earth is round. Yeah, you don't the earth is round like a pizza. You don't have to, you don't have to convince me. I'm convinced. All right. I have seen the photographs of the earth from the moon. The astronauts took pictures of the earth from the moon. So I know it's round, at least like a pizza. Maybe it's round like an orange. All right. So no me tienes que convencer. You don't have to convince me. You don't have to. No debes tocar eso, eh? No debes tocar eso. You mustn't touch that. It's sacred. You mustn't touch that. Why not? It's a sacred microphone. What do you mean sacred? If you touch it, it will kill you. Not immediately, but 2 days, 3 days later, you will die of a strange disease, a strange illness. If you touch that sacred microphone. All right. Oof. Okay. I'd better not touch it. No, you mustn't touch it. Cuando instas mucho, no debes de ninguna manera. Se dice must. Instando. Ojo, cuidado, you mustn't touch it. Now, you'd better not means más vale que no lo toques, porque si no, te doy un puñetazo. You'd better not. But you mustn't is quieto parado. Eh? You mustn't touch it. You shouldn't is recomendación. Oh, no, en mi opinión, no deberías tocarlo. You shouldn't touch it, really. They say that it kills people, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it. No, you mustn't touch it. I know for a fact. ¿Sí? Por un hecho, se dice en inglés. ¿Sí? Por buena fuente. Por una fuente buena. Buena fuentes. Por una fuente buena. Ahora no se puede decir esa frase. Yeah. Por buenas fuentes. Fuentes fidedignas. Okay. That will kill you if you, in a question of 2 or 3 days, you're dead. Wow. I'm not going to touch it. Don't worry. I'm not going to touch it. All right. No deberías estar aquí, eh? You shouldn't be here. If they see you and me together, my God, the gossip press follows me everywhere. Yeah, the paparazzi are outside. The gossip press is la prensa rosa. And there are at least 5 or 6 paparazzis outside. If they see you and me together, my God, it's going to create a scandal. Yeah. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. What are you doing here? You shouldn't. No, debes estar aquí. ¿Qué haces tú aquí? You shouldn't be here. What are you doing here? Más vale que te vayas, porque si no, you'd better leave, because otherwise, the paparazzi will take a picture of you and me together. Yeah. And then, problems. Right. Yes, we will be the conversation on all of the TV shows for the next 3 weeks. Yes, you shouldn't be here. You'd better go. Más vale que te vayas. You'd better leave. You had better leave. You'd better leave, because otherwise, because if not, problems. ¿Qué puedo hacer con esto? What can I do with this? ¿Qué hago con esto? Se dice aquí. In English, no. What can I do with this? Or what am I supposed to do? ¿Qué se supone que debo hacer con esto? Eh? What am I supposed to do with this? I mean, it's a little piece of paper. No, it's not. It's useless. This is just a little piece of paper. No, it's not. It's a bookmarker. Oh. What can I do with this? I can use it as a bookmarker. What would the world be without bookmarkers? Can you imagine un mundo sin marcadores? Can you imagine? Marca páginas, you say. Yeah. What would the world be? Can you imagine the world without bookmarkers? It would be a worse world than it is today without bookmarkers. We need bookmarkers. Somebody has to make bookmarkers. Here in Vaughan, we have a lot. Do you have any Vaughan bookmarkers? You do? At home, I have about 10. I read 10 books at the same time. All right. ¿Qué puedo hacer con esto? What can I? What can I? Can I? Can I? Can I? Can I? What can I? Can you? Can he? What can I do with this? Es posible que sea demasiado tarde. It may be too late. Fíjate, es posible que sea demasiado tarde. It may. O sea, puede que sea. It may be too late. It may be too late. It may be too late. I'm not sure. It may be. Es posible que hay un malentendido aquí. There may be. There's a misunderstanding. Well, there is? No, maybe not. There may be a misunderstanding. There may be a misunderstanding. But I'm not sure. Averigüémoslo. Let's find out. All right. Es posible que haya habido. Ya es el pasado hasta hoy. Es posible que haya habido. No es posible que haya. Es posible que haya habido un malentendido. Entonces, salto de there may be a there may have been. Puede que haya habido. There may have been. Hubo un problema ayer en la reunión. There was a problem yesterday in the meeting. Yeah? Between Pedro and Pablo. Really? Oh, what was the problem? I don't know. Strange. There may have been a misunderstanding. There may have been a misunderstanding. Puede que haya habido un malentendido entre los dos. No, seguramente que ha habido. There must have been. Debe de haber habido. Por conclusión lógica. There must have been a misunderstanding. Well, there may have been a misunderstanding. No podría ser de otro modo. It couldn't be any other way. Any other way, no? It couldn't be any other way. Yeah. Learning English? Only this way. There couldn't be any other way. It couldn't be any other way. All right, ¿dónde estamos? Translation booklet. We have about 4 minutes left. We have time to start, shall we? List 22 on page 178. I have to look at 79 because the 8 and the 6, I can't tell the difference here. Page 179, list 22. Él es mucho más alto de lo que crees. He's much taller than you think. He's much taller than you. Suena nuevo, ¿no? New, than you. Enlazabilidad fonética, silábica. He's much taller than you think. He's a lot taller. Much taller, a lot taller. He's a lot taller than you think. Soy más fuerte que el hombre más fuerte del mundo. Okay. I'm stronger than the strongest man in the world. No, of the world. I'm stronger than the strongest man in the world. I'm stronger than the strongest man in the world. All right. Estaban tan buenos que me comí 3. They were so good that I ate 3. Wow. You ate 3. Yeah. I ate 3. 3 what? 3 donuts. Okay. Yeah. Normally I only eat 2. I'm a 2 donut man. But they were so good that I ate 3. They were so good that I ate 3. You know, I remember an interesting video I saw. This is an interesting story. We have about 2 minutes, I think. And it was a scientist, un científico con bata blanca. And he was doing an experiment with 10 children, 3 years old. The children were 3 years old. 10 3-year-old children. And he put a plate in front of each child with a big, beautiful piece of chocolate. And he said, when I tell you, you can eat the chocolate. But he said, but wait, I'm going to leave for 5 minutes and come back. Now, don't eat the chocolate. And if you don't eat the chocolate, I'll give you a second chocolate. So if you wait and postpone your satisfaction, you'll have 2. And so he left for 5 minutes, and the camera was focused on these little children looking at the chocolate. And the temptation, it was interesting. 6 of the children ate the chocolate. 4 of them had the strength to wait and to postpone gratification. And so they were rewarded with an additional piece of chocolate, which means maybe only 40% of the people in this world are capable of postponing gratification in order to achieve or greater gratification. It's interesting. And so you see it in the psychology of children as well. No, they couldn't resist the temptation to eat the chocolate in a question of only 5 minutes. So that's the translation list. We don't have time to continue. All right. ¿Por qué te comiste tantos? Why did you eat so many? O sea, estaban tan buenos, o el chocolate estaba tan bueno que me lo comí. It was so good that I ate it. I couldn't resist the temptation. Pero esto dice, estaban tan buenos que me comí 3. They were so good that I ate 3. Comí 8. I ate 8. ¿Por qué comiste tantos? Why did you eat so many? All right. We'll continue with this tomorrow.